So I just finished looking at the entire first season of Wonder Man, and I gotta say off the bat, I am pleasantly surprised. I'm being also quite honest with you, I didn't really know anything about Wonder Man. Maybe like much of you, I knew he was a Marvel character, and that's as far as it went. To experience this show, literally a couple hours ago, I'm thoroughly impressed. I'm gonna try to break down this spoiler-free review in about 3 to 4 different ways. The vibes of the show, um, the main characters of the show, and then the things that I loved about seeing in the show. There are gonna be some things I didn't like seeing about the show, and I'll talk about that. But I'm gonna try to keep it as spoiler free as possible. So, just to get this out the way, Wonder Man is based on the character superhero. Traditionally, he was portrayed as a white individual named Simon. Was very wealthy industrialist. He has superpowers, yada yada yada. But what I love about how this show took on this character of Simon was not only that what I love about this show is that they underplayed the superhero aspect of the show, the superhero aspect of the character, where we're watching Simon trying to be just a an actor through LA, trying to make it big, and he's has some moderate success, right? He's in shows, famous shows, but the one thing that gets in Simon's way is Simon. And you watch this unfurl in the very first episode where he has everything kind of laid out for him, but for some reason he cannot get out of his own head. I won't spoil too much of it, but I love to see this character where they're flawed, they're extremely broken, there's something wrong with them, and this issue plays into their character. This issue plays into the story. This issue plays into their backstory and how they came to be. And the show does a great job of pacing those little breadcrumbs of the plot throughout. You get a little bit of what Simon is, what he's trying to hide, and there's like meta commentary wrapped in that as a black man, a black individual wrestling with not only just having this incredible talent and being incredibly smart and gifted and handsome, but there's this mental toll on I have to keep it all up. I have to show little bits of myself without showing everything about myself, and the trauma and the pain that comes with that. Yahya Abdul Mateen II, I think he is an incredible actor. Yahya brings not only a weight to this role, but he's able to kind of like get lost in the psychopathy of Simon. You witness him, wanting to be an actor and the struggle that entails, but you also witness how he's struggling to deal with his own mental health. He's struggling to deal with his own powers and subverting those and subsuming those powers and not letting anybody know. And that need to just hide as much of yourself as possible until those cracks start to show. I thought he did a phenomenal job. I really everything that Yaya pretty much is in, I've always loved seeing him in. I know I saw him in Aquaman. He was in Watchmen playing Doctor Manhattan, which he did a fantastic job as. But it seems like everything he does is he knocks it clear out of the park, and I really really like that. There's not enough I could say about Sir Ben Kingsley. Like him being in Iron Man 3 was a huge curveball. All the promotional advertisement for Iron Man 3 let you know that he was Mandarin. Spoiler alert for Iron Man 3 and whatever. Let you know that he was the Mandarin, and the big gotcha moment was, he's just a regular actor. Trevor Slattery, who's dealt with a lot of tragedy. He's dealt with ego. He's dealt with fame and not getting to the places that he needs to, and him picking that one moment where he decided to take a role that changed the course of his life forever, changed the trajectory of his life forever. But seeing Sir Ben Kingsley acting opposite Yaya, there is a great chemistry between them, almost like a father and son, almost like a mentor mentee. I really love that dynamic between the two. And Sir Ben Kingsley, he's able to show so much in the very quiet scenes, and he's able to kind of like you're able to kind of like him and like cringe at him, but like love him. But like, why did he say that? Like, there's so many like emotions and feelings when I watch him on screen, but it comes from the heart. You realize that over the years since Iron Man 3, since his capture in Iron Man 3 and whatnot, that life has taken a tremendous toll on him. And him, I won't get into why he's in the show, but his meeting with Simon and them coming together and them kind of vibing off of each other and them having secrets of their own that they don't want to let each other know, but the inevitability of those secrets coming to head, as the series goes on, is both tragic and heartfelt. And I think the showrunners did an incredible job about that. Destin Daniel, Creighton, I have so much respect for you, man. Andrew Guest, you guys really did a great job in show running this show, helped writing this show, hiring such diverse talent for this show, and it shows. Another thing that I love about Wonder Man, I have a huge issue. I have a huge issue with shows and movies letting the culture or race of a particular character be the only thing about that character and not writing anything other about that character, not writing the core motivations about that character, not having that character be as engaging. I don't want to besmirch another show that came on Disney Plus, but I think the reason why I was so turned off by Ironheart was just the opening scenes of having Ironheart. And yes, I know it's okay for a woman to be an asshole. It's okay for a woman to show that they're incredibly smart, incredibly gifted. I understand that, but there was something that turned me off between just having her be that asshole, and there was like nothing more compelling behind that. And I noticed that a lot of shows where they claim to have diverse cast, diverse characters, diverse stories, they always lead with like the culture. They always lead with the race. They always lead with the gender or sexuality, what have you. And then you peel back, and there's nothing more compelling other than that character being that particular race or gender or sexual orientation. And I think that's a disservice. What I like about Wonder Woman is we uncover about Simon's cultural heritage, and it's woven into the story, into the fabric of the show. You see that he has a Haitian background. You see that he's loved by his mother and his brother. You witness them together and them talking in Creole, and that it's all woven well, but it doesn't override the entirety of the show. It doesn't become, okay, we need to always have, this cultural moment in. It's something that's a part of Simon, but it's not the entirety of Simon. And that's what I love. I really appreciate them having that deft, nuanced hand, and just let's start with the character first, and then have those cultural touchstones, those moments, kind of be cherries on the ice cream on the cake of that character, instead of just being the entirety of that character. And I really appreciate that. And it made me want to know more about Simon's background instead of being forced. Okay, this is his background. And some of you might not agree with this, but it's something that prevents me from continuing watching shows when I'm not saying diversity is shoved down your throat. I'm just saying there's a way you could tell the same story, or you can get across the same type of touch points of that character and their cultural background without just jamming it down their throat and then having nothing behind it. So I'm gonna jump off of that because I'll go on and on about that, but that's what I loved about the show. Yes, there's some things I didn't like about the show. Yes, it's talking about Hollywood. It's a PG sort of 13ish show. It's not rated R. It's not MA. I wasn't expecting it to, but Hollywood, as beautiful as it is, there's a lot of seedy, disturbing moments of it, and I felt that the show did a wonderful job, kind of balancing the seedy-esque, despicable elements of Hollywood without getting too grimy with it. And it could have possibly done it. If it was on HBO, it definitely would have gone to that level. But there was always something more that I kind of wanted from the show, a little more darker element. And it does touch upon it a little bit, but you have to remember this is a Disney show. And we're trying to paint a broad strokes as much as possible, get as much accessibility into the show as much as possible without scaring people off of it. And I was kind of like torn between those elements of like, I didn't want it to be Entourage level, but I wanted to see people, clap back at why is Wonder Man black now? Like because that discourse is in reality. People see a character switching, seeing a beloved character has always been, white turning over to black. You're gonna feel that. They did it with Miles, they did it with Riri. They've done it. There's countless examples, and for Disney not to kind of shy away from that element a little bit, it kind of rung a little false and untrue. But it's a Disney show. I took it on the chin. Maybe they'll address it in season 2. Maybe they won't. I don't think it's a factor, but it kind of took me out of the experience of Simon being in Hollywood as a black man, a black actor, and him dealing with a lot of the slings and arrows of being an actor, being of a black actor, and not kind of having those issues addressed was okay. And I guess they wanted to stay away from the preachy element, but it kind of took me out just a little bit, I think this is the proper way to go when you want to do shows as far as where Marvel is at in terms of where they are in the hierarchy of what they used to be like 10, 11, 12 years ago and where they are now. They're not the same Marvel that they are now. And I think them taking the slant in the show, the vibes of the show, where it's very off kilter, it reminded me of Atlanta. It reminded me a lot of Barry. It reminded me of Mad Men and The Studio, and there's like countless other shows that it reminded me of. But to have even Legion, I think Legion kind of set the standard on how you can do Marvel shows and have them be a little off kilter. You don't have to tell them in a traditional way. You can just throw your audience curveballs left and right. Even Moon Knight. Moon Knight is a perfect example of that too, where these shows that are they're not so straightforward. They could be. They're very fantastical in their element, but you don't have to tell the story in an ABC manner. You can kind of switch it up and tell it in different ways and different perspectives, and it can still be great. There's an episode 4, which I thought was like one of the penultimate episodes, other than the last episode. But episode 4 like hurt me deep because, and I think it's almost foretelling about what could possibly happen to Simon. And I think it kind of did it towards the episode 8, but you find out more about the backstory of this particular world and how superheroes are treated in society, how the world treats them, in the workplace. And I won't give too much away. I encourage you all to check it out. They released all 8 episodes of Wonder Man, so you're free to like burn through the entire season if you want to. But I really appreciate the showrunners for making this show. Like I said, I canceled my Disney subscription like months ago. After I was done with Alien Earth, I was like, there's not much for me to see here. But I have to give it up to Angry Black Nerd. Thank you, Angry Black Nerd. You made me resubscribe to Disney Plus to check out the show, and I don't feel bad at all. There was moments that I teared up a little bit. There was moments I laughed. I love shows that give you the range and spectrums of emotions that you're supposed to feel. And I had no idea I would feel that way about Wonder Man. When they first announced the show, I was looking at it side eye. I was like, "What the hell is this? What? This is just struggle Disney at its latest, man. Like I don't care about this shit." And then I watched it, and I just can't get it out of my mind. I just can't get it out of my mind. And I know there's so much more in store for Wonder Man. I love his powers. They're drip feeding his powers, and I'm looking online to find out, how his powers, manifest and things that entail and how powerful he is and stuff like that. So I love shows where you're kind of like you're reading up on the lore and the origin of the particular character and story as you're watching it. And there's moments where like it was hard for me to kind of watch the screen. It was moments of when Simon was deep in his head, where he was overanalyzing I'm not trying to spoil anything, but he was overanalyzing a situation, and he was being a dick about it. He was being an asshole about it. And I think a part of it is that he kind of knew he was being an asshole, and another part of it is, I want to get this right. I want to get this perfect. I want to get this so that no one can say that I don't deserve to be here. I want to show that I am more than just what you see me as. And I think those underlining currents of I wouldn't say imposter syndrome, but there's a almost, and not a manic quality to his character, but there's this need to kind of always outdo and outshow without showing truly what he is inside, because what he is inside is he does have powers. There is more to him than just the actor that you see, but he's so afraid of showing his true self that it'll ruin everything. And I think having Trevor Slattery, Sir Ben Kingsley in the show was a nice counterbalance to Simon's almost like neurotic, almost, I wouldn't say autistic, but there was moments where he did display like it was a heavy focus. It was a very narrow, zeroed in focus on this one particular thing, and then just obliterating everything else. That made it almost hard to watch because there was times where it set me back to where there were times where I was over focused and I was zeroing and I wasn't realizing that I was being an asshole and other people were seeing that, but I was so anxious and worried to get this one thing right that everything else that came around me just drifted away. I didn't care about that. I wanted to shine. I wanted to show that I could do this, and it just pushed things away. And you see that if you've dealt with stuff like that, you'll pick it up. And it was hard for me to watch some of those scenes. They weren't bad. It was just I identified with a lot of those scenes, and I think that's why Wonder Man is so poignant with me. Other than the main character being black, I think a lot of his mental issues, him you know being who he is and trying to hide the things that he is, but also show a little too much and not know there's like this like social anxiety. He's not really good among people. That kind of he almost like betrays himself without trying to, if that makes sense. But I encourage all of you to check out this series. If you don't have Disney Plus, subscribe to Disney Plus, get it, watch it, and then you can do whatever you will. But I'm gonna keep it a little longer because I want to see season two, and I want to thank Disney Plus for making another great show. I loved Loki. I love Agatha Harkness. I love WandaVision. I think their shows are really strong, and I see like this Marvel spotlight, and him transitioning to Marvel television. I think the skies are the limit to what they can possibly do if they really examine a lot of the stories in Marvel's pantheon. I desperately want to see X-Men, and I wouldn't be mad if they want to do an entire series on X-Men. I mean, have an entire series on X-Men instead of a movie. That shit could last like 20 something years. Like, there's so many stories in X-Men that you can do, and you can get as graphic or non-graphic as possible doing a series, versus doing a movie. But I understand doing a movie is more financially viable, whatever. But like, that's why I love shows, because you're able to kind of take your time and let stuff breathe and kind of uncover the core of that character. And I think the showrunners and the writers and the directors of Wonder Man did an excellent job with like the marketing of the show, the vibes and looks of the show. I really love the cinematography of the entire show, the direction. There was not one episode where I was like looking at my phone like, okay, is this shit over? Like, I was just laughing and I was just immersed in it. Even when I was half tired, like getting off work, I was just I would pick up from the next season that I maybe dozed off of because I was so tired. But like, it was that I just burned through this show as fastly as possible, as quickly as possible. So yeah, that's all I got. I'm tired. If I had to rate this show, I would definitely give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's one of the best. It is one of the best Marvel shows and quote unquote Disney shows that I've seen. And I'm sorry that I discounted it when I first saw it. I was butthurt. I was butthurt over Marvel and the things that they Marvel. I was butthurt over what Marvel was doing, and now I'm starting to warm back to them. I think they're kind of, hopefully, and I don't want to get my hopes up. I hope that they're turning the page and examining. We need to push Marvel in a new direction. We can't do the same stuff that we did 10, 11 years ago. We have to find a way to uncover these characters and make them relevant, make them endearing. And Simon Williams is definitely a great character. He's definitely endearing. He's someone that I really enjoy watching. And I love the show. That's all I got. I really appreciate if you like, share, subscribe. I know I've been gone for a while and I had a sabbatical, but you gotta do what you gotta do. And I felt it's Black History Month, and I wanted to kind of come on in here and big up to a show that's, I wouldn't say Black History focused, but it's something. It's a welcome sight to see, especially during this month, seeing what's possible when showrunners kind of just let characters be characters and not just be black and that's it, you know. And I really love to show the full spectrum of being a human being, you know, just show or a superhero human being or whatever. But just there's more to it than that, and Wonder Man has done that. So that's it. That's all I got. Yeah. So see you when I see you. Cabs out.